Hey everybody, it's Party Elite with another episode of Total Breakdown. This time we've got RigidGeth leading a small but high-tier greenskin army in battle against the Empire, led by ZeVa. At least that's how I think you say that name. Now, RigidGeth brings an Orc Warboss in command alongside a Night Goblin Shaman, a unit of Nasty Skulkers, 3 units of Black Orcs, the Crimson Killers, a unit of Night Goblin Archer Fanatics, the Death Creepers, a Giant, and the Arachnarok Queen. Meanwhile, the Empire brings a General of the Empire in charge with an Amber Wizard, 3 units of Spearmen, 1 ranked up to rank 1, a rank 1 unit of Flagellants, 5 units of Greatswords, 3 units of Crossbowmen, and a unit of Demigryph Knights. The Empire outnumbers the Greenskins quite heftily. Let's see how it all unfolds on the battlefield. Alright, as always, we're going to start by looking at the layouts here. Now, the Greenskins, though they are a small army, they are quite spread out. In the center, we've got your sort of Black Orcs and Giant, etc. Everything's sort of in the middle here, but off to the side, we've got these Nasty Skulkers and the Death Creepers. So I'm guessing the intent was to push forward, sort of lock in an engagement somewhere here, and then come in with some flanking maneuvers, get the poison in there, and try and crush the enemy. Now, the main center over here is also nicely laid out. We've got a main line of Black Orcs, very simple, and off to one side we've got the Giant, and to the other we've got the Arachnarok Queen, making sure both sides have some punching power and not allowing either flank to be too weak. Meanwhile, the Empire has taken sort of a defensive layout over here. You'll see the swords are all up front. On either flank, we've got these spears, and the rear has the spears as well as some flagellants, and the center has, of course, these crossbowmen. For some reason, the Empire decides to start moving forward, giving up its position right away. Not entirely sure what the thinking was there, because the ideal situation from the layout with the Demigryph Knights off to the side here would probably also be an engagement somewhere here, with these Knights able to pull in for a rear charge. Now, with that said, having spotted these Death Creepers off to the side here, the first thing these Demigryph Knights should have done is gone in, taken care of them nice and early, sort of destroyed them, made sure they weren't able to get in and get too much damage, either trickle damage or poison in there, and then swung in to hit either the Queen or the Giant, however the situation would have developed. Now, instead, the Empire is pushing forward with full force. The Demigryph Knights are sitting quietly, and meanwhile the Nasty Skulkers are able to stalk up, and the Death Creepers are able to go up unchallenged. The General, I believe, is out here for some scouting just to make sure nothing is missing, because this is a surprisingly small greenskin army, but doing that scouting allows these archers to get a couple shots in. Not like they do a lot of damage, but just good to keep an eye on that. Now you'll notice also, because they were all in motion, the crossbows weren't able to open fire on the Spider or the Giant. A lot of initial damage just wasted there, a lot of potential just wasted, and you'll notice the Spider is able to engage both of these crossbowmen and brings in these Spider hatchlings as well to engage the third unit. So as a result of that, all 3 of these crossbow units are engaged. The Giant is able to get in scot-free, and all the Greenskins are able to push forward without any challenging fire or attacks, really. Meanwhile, these Nasty Skulkers are coming in from the side. Black Orcs are able to push in and collapse this flank almost right away. The Demigryph Knights are being pushed in to probably attack this Giant over here. Not the best call. Instead, it should have been targeted here down to the Arachnarok Queen, just to try and prevent both of these lines from collapsing at the same time. Now, off to the side here, these Spearmen really should have been pulled in against the Arachnarok Queen as well, or just to scare these Death Creepers off just momentarily and then pull them back in. You will notice that the crossbowmen are able to retreat into some safety, and these swordsmen as well. They should have been pulled in for a rear charge on the Crimson Killers or these Black Orcs. Meanwhile, you'll notice the General is sort of picking a fight with the Arachnarok Queen right now, and the Amber Wizard is lost over here as well, using Arcane Conduit just to get a little bit of magical capabilities going, and one surprising factor is that he is on foot. Putting him in the air would have been a much better idea, especially against the Greenskins. Now, with that said, these crossbowmen are opening fire into this clump over here. Unfortunately, it looks like they're targeting the Black Orcs. Instead, they should be focusing on the Giant, and meanwhile, the Giant should actually be pushing into the front from these rears, making sure these guys are quickly taken care of. And right there, you'll notice the Manticore was called into action. Meanwhile, the General sort of pulling in, getting a rear charge on some of these Black Orcs, hitting the Orc Warboss as well, getting some damage in there, trying to get him to retreat. So, not a bad call there. You know, good to kind of try and destroy the Greenskin leadership, because that is really a weak point for them. Meanwhile, you'll notice again, still focusing on these Black Orcs, and sending the Manticore in here against the Giant is a bad call. The Giant's going to have a field day there. You'll see each hit does a lot of damage, so not the best call there. And you'll notice now the Orc Warboss has given up, is pulling away. Meanwhile, these Night Goblin archers just having a field day here with these flagellants opening fire, causing a little bit of trickle damage, and really should have been taken care of a lot earlier, maybe with the Demigryph Knights or the General, who, by the way, currently is sort of sitting pretty. You'll notice at the same time this Feral Manticore is being taken care of very easily. Did very little damage to the Giant, brought it down to half health, but not the best place for it. Could have instead come in to do some rear charges on these Black Orcs, again, just trying to break their leadership. Meanwhile, you'll notice the Arachnarok Queen, it was retreating earlier, but it has returned, causing a decent amount of terror and fear among these units, able to have, once again, just a field day because it's been left unchecked. If the Spearmen could get a surround and the Demigryph Knights were involved, very quickly the Arachnarok Queen could have been taken care of. Meanwhile, the General, you'll notice now, after having dispatched of the Orc War Boss, is trying to get into this engagement while the Spearmen are actually chasing these Death Creepers all the way off into the distance. It would have been much better if these Demigryph Knights had taken care of them nice and early, but too little too late, unfortunately. Now, the General does come down against the the Night Goblin Shaman here, trying to take care of it and reduce any magical support it can provide. Unfortunately, at the same time, sending the Amber Wizard into death, more or less, a suicide mission, where instead he should have been kept safe. Flock of Doom would have done a lot of work on these Black Orcs. Just a great idea to use the Amber Wizard, keep him in the air, but instead, again, just wasting his life, throwing him into combat there. Now, the Spider is being fully surrounded here, the Spearmen coming in as well. The Crimson Killers were brought in to get a rear charge on some Spearmen. They should have been turned around to hit these Spearmen right away, and the Arachnarok Queen could have actually been kept alive if that had been done. But unfortunately, the General of the Empire has some plans of his own. He is pushing in, wants to take care of the Queen, very low on health as it is. This is an important moment. Now, you'll notice Itchy Nuisance does go down, so unfortunately, the General has come here to kill the Queen, successfully, I might add, but has left the Night Goblin Shaman alive in doing so. Now, at this point, the Empire does still have a chance, though it looks like a desperate situation. If the General of the Empire was able to swing into these largely unhurt, actually entirely unhurt Night Goblin archers, make sure they're not able to get their morale damage and poison damage in, that would be extremely helpful. And then, following that, taking care of the Night Goblin Shaman to prevent magic casts like that from going down. So, overall, just a bit of management here could really bring the Empire back together. Reforming lines is very helpful, especially when morale and health is so low, and just bringing the General in to take care of anything that could damage morale. Meanwhile, off at the distance here, you'll notice these Spearmen have more or less given up, and the Death Creepers, now out of ammo, are able to come back into this engagement with rear flanking maneuvers. Meanwhile, the General does come back in, swoops into some of these Black Orcs. Again, a little bit of focus, a little bit of attention on these Night Goblin archers would have gone a long way. Over here, these hatchlings are making sure these crossbowmen aren't able to open fire, and the Giant is actually taking care of the Amber Wizard as well. Terrified as he is, he needs to be killed just to make sure he doesn't come back in here. Now the General once again lifting off, leaving those Black Orcs, finally almost coming down on these archers, but instead deciding to go up against the Night Goblin Shaman. Again, a good target, but it's a good idea to attack magic casters early on before the Winds of Magic reserves are already depleted. Now you'll notice a lot of these units, a lot of these Greenskin units are giving up. A little bit of trickle fire from archers can do a lot of work. However, because these Death Creepers were left on their own to do whatever they wished, they're now able to come in from the rear and actually, on their own, take care of these crossbowmen without needing any additional support, without any ammunition. They can come in from the rear and just destroy both of these units. Not a problem at all. Meanwhile, the General still trying to duke it out, still trying to keep alive and keep his units fighting. Unfortunately, the General is almost dead, still ignoring these archers, still not quite caring enough about the significant amount of damage they can do, both in terms of attributes with their poison attacks and morale just through their archer fire. Now, again, coming in against these Black Orcs, trying to dispatch them quickly, but they're in a good position overall. The enemy is giving up, their morale is spiking up, and so the General goes into a battle that he's willing to lose, apparently. And meanwhile, back here, the Giant just capping off some archers, spreading the damage around on individual units, making sure as many of them start to rout as possible, ultimately resulting in a shatter. Now, the Orc War Boss wasn't here to see it, but it was a close victory, well done with a small but elite group of Greenskin units. I really hope this showcases the importance of unit quality over quantity. While the Empire vastly outnumbered the Greenskins were better managed and prevented the Empire from capitalizing on its strengths. By cutting off any early ranged fire, and with the use of some harassment and large units, the Empire was quickly put on the back foot. The Death Creepers were able to take a valuable anti-large unit out of the battle from the beginning, and the left flank quickly collapsed under heavy pressure from the Giant and the Black Orcs. Now the Empire really should have focused in, using some of its crossbow fire, and also taking care of those archers early on. A little bit of trickle fire and some poison damage can go a long way in turning the tide of battle. As always, for more Total War content, make sure you subscribe to this channel, and I continue to take new submissions for Total Breakdown as well. I have a few very interesting replays lined up, and I'm always looking for more. They're a great way to learn by looking at real player decisions and plays. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the battlefield.